And the testimony is, as a young boy, I was growing up, and I came from a very good family and very good friends, and lots of my relatives were great, still are, for that matter. For that matter. But I grew up in the late '60s, early '70s, and through the mid '70s, and our motto back then was drugs, sex, and rock and roll, and I lived it. I lived that life. I wish I could say it was better, but and I'm not saying this to brag or anything, but the thing is that a lot of times if we don't know where we come from, it's hard to find out where we're going. And growing up, I lived by that motto, and and I'm not proud of it, but that's where I come from. I've done the drugs. I drinking. I had a brief time I was working overseas, and when I got back from overseas, I was drinking over a liter of rum a night, a lot of booze. And I used to say I drank enough booze to float a battleship, but somebody close to me said, that's kind of exaggerated. So now I say, I've drank enough booze to float a good-sized bass boat, and that's not exaggerated. I know I've smoked enough dope to float a couple of 3 hot air balloons. There was a time in my life that I called the devil my buddy. I took pills. I snorted. The only thing I never did was put a needle in my vein. But I thank God that He pulled me through. That even when I was in the worst possible place I could be, and when I was as far away from God as you could possibly be without being in hell, He still reached out to me, and He still. Then I didn't know it, but now I see His hand in everything He did. I got married, and wife got rededicated her life. She's a Baptist preacher's kid, and she rededicated her life in early '80s, and the Baptists, they have something about them. They just like to witness, like to come at your door, knock on your door, and witness to you. And for me, it seemed like every time they come, it was coming right around lunchtime or dinner, supper time. When I was sitting down to eat, and they'd come to the door, and it got to the point where I didn't want to have nothing to do with them, or nothing to do with their people, or nothing to do with God, or nothing to do with their God, or anything like that. I just politely get up from the table, walk to the door, and close it right in their face. But they still kept coming. They came when I rejected them. When I told them I didn't want to have anything to do with them or their God, leave me alone. But they loved me in spite of myself. I made fun of them, but they kept coming. Especially this one couple. I'll never forget them as long as I live. And I'll be glad to see them in glory because I want to give them another hug. Emmett and Linda LaBiche, they never gave up on me. They kept coming even when I didn't want to have anything to do with them. I told them I didn't have anything to do with them. They kept coming. But I'll never forget the day. Oh, I can take you these stories. It's just amazing that, my wife and my daughter, my oldest daughter, one Father's Day, they bought me a Bible. Can you believe that? A Bible. And I just threw it in a box and put it back on the shelf and just left it there. And it was a long time before. But I started reading it. I wanted to find out if there was something in there. I was going to find out about it. And I started reading it. And one afternoon, Emmett and Linda come knocking on my door. They didn't come at lunch, supper time, because they knew that it would make me mad. So they came. It was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I don't know who was more surprised, them, me, or my wife, when I invited them to come in.